Hola, beautiful people. Um, I did my last blog saying I'm on the move. I've slept on the street for 2 nights. I did that blog, I think, going to the second night. And I kind of got sick of sleeping on the street. It's not my first time, but I got sick of it because I was being attacked so much. And due to brother Shen organizing some fun to meet some people in the US, they saw one of my videos, said there's no way I should be going through things I'm going through. So they sent him some money so he could send me some money. I thought, well, rather than being so overly cautious and sleeping on the street to make sure I don't run out of money, let me find a place to sleep for a couple of nights because my bus leaves in a couple of days, and just stay there so I'm not being attacked on the street. So now I'm in a place. There's nobody here but me. I've got a room here, and I've just finished eating, and as I've been eating, things have been going. So this has come up. Right. In the past, via LinkedIn, I've mentioned a few things about the banking industry and finance. Now, one of them was about how the banking industry via Switzerland has orchestrated or had orchestrated the issue that was the credit bubbles. And the second one was how the value of money, current value and future value of money, was used via mortgages to create slaves of all of you have-nots who get mortgages. Now, as I've been sitting down today eating, I've been hearing I need to say more on this. So this is in continuance from that. So I'm not going to say anything more on the first two. You just go to my LinkedIn page. You'll see the comments I made, and you can see it for yourself. But what I will do is say, now, future value, current value. Now, £100 today is not worth the same in £100 in 10 years because inflation makes it worth less. So how those money men, the haves, make sure that they always get their £100 back, if not more, they create interest. So they add interest to money, cost of money, so that they make sure in 10 years' time, as you're paying back your debt, that's maybe 10 years, 20 years repayment periods, or even 30 years repayment periods, they get back their money because money, due to inflation, deflation. Now, the reason why I bring this up, there are many families from the 70s and onwards, maybe even earlier, that have experience of whole families going onto the streets, mothers, fathers, and children. Now, remember, it's the Slavs and the Jews. The Jews created the financial systems. The Slavs have helped them operate it. Now, as they've put out mortgages, you have gone out and got mortgages because they made you believe you need to buy a property to be someone in society. And only those who own property have rights. This is the truth of Roman law as per the 12 tables, and the truth of all law based upon the Roman tables. And that means all law of every country upon earth in this civil world they created. Now, as you've all gone out and bought properties, I'm going to use an example. 100,000. I mean, no property is worth 100,000. They're always worth a whole lot more. But 100,000 repaid in 30 years, let's say. Now, because of interest, they make sure that 100,000 is repaid back at the value of 300,000. So you've repaid 300,000 for that 100,000 mortgage, but your property is never going to triple in value. So you make a profit. Now, when I was in the 100 Black Men of America, 100 Black Men of London teaching, and I designed a program that allowed Morenos people to learn of the true value of equity and why they should not take mortgages because of the reduction of equity within the community as a whole. You're repaying back 3 times of a property, and the property is never going to increase 3 times. You might as well just save your money, stay living in your council property, and in 30 years, when you've got that money in the bank, do something better with it. This is what I was trying to teach everyone. And 100 Black Men of America and 100 Black Men of London denied me from teaching this because they are traitors to all of us. Remember, in these final periods, not a single one of the 100 Black Men of London or the 100 Black Men of America shall be included with among us. They are traitors. Anyway. And they are willing traitors. So I try to teach this so our people can see how equity makes people less off, communities less off or better off. Anyway, the banks, how they've used this. As you've got to a point in your repayment period where you cannot pay, they say, oh, you don't have the money to pay me? Fuck you, pay me. You can't feed your children this month? Fuck you, pay me. Your grandmother's sick, you can't afford to help your grandmother and pay me? Fuck you, pay me. They do not care because they are Slavs and Jews and care for nothing. And as a result, millions of families, I'm not talking about people, families, mother, father, and all their children have been made homeless because they can't repay a mortgage. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because they can't repay a mortgage. Now, once this mortgage can't be repaid and these people are put on the street, they then try and make you compromise again because you compromised in the first time to get the mortgage. Did you not? And the mothers and fathers are like, fuck it, I'm not compromising again. I compromised before and look at me now, I'm homeless on the street with my children. So they don't compromise. And then these Slavs and these Jews, they use this philosophy. Well, if we keep showing hate, they're going to know. So we have to show love. So then they come out with, we can't let the children suffer for your mistakes. So the social services come in and take your children from you. And they say, oh, you can't let the children live on the street, suffer from your mistake. They take your children. You, in your lack of wisdom, because they tell you we're not letting your children suffer for your mistakes, you go, okay, you let them take your children away. Then as they stop you from getting work again, stop you from getting back into industry again because you are no longer willing to compromise because your compromise led you into the homeless position in the first place, they say, okay, you're not willing to compromise, no more work. And no more work means you're remaining homeless. And then they tell you, you're not homeless, you're remaining homeless, you don't have a job, you can no longer see your children. But it is no longer in their interest for you to see your children. And this has happened to millions of families throughout decades. And they stop you from seeing your children. And then you have all these millions and millions of children who are stuck in the social services being killed by the social services, being killed by the Jews and the Slavics deliberately. Many of them have disappeared from earth completely and the families have no idea because they have had no contact with their children. These children have been eaten by the Slavs and the Jews. These children have been killed by the Slavs and the Jews. Some of them have been locked in slave houses and been sexual slaves by the Slavs and the Jews deliberately, because this is what they do through this system. I mentioned this on a Lysistrata post that I did on LinkedIn when I was saying, look at the times it happened before and no one really realized. I was relating it to this and other things. There's many things via Lysistrata that this relates to. Anyway, so I bring this up today because you need to see how the banks and how all financial systems are part of the Slavic and Jew process in removing you from this earth, splitting you up as per the Lysistrata, killing your children as per the Lysistrata. Now, banks, I know that you already know I've already spoken of you on LinkedIn twice, and you have not stopped me from getting access to my accounts. And I am knowing you are not going to stop me from getting access to my accounts as I travel around. Because in these last days, as our people come together, and they've already begun, you are going to want mercy. If you stop me from getting access to my money, my own money, and money people give me, my people are going to make sure every single one of you pay the worst price possible. And remember, you already know how you end is how you are going to begin in the afterlife. And it's only going to get worse. No let up for eternity. So you make sure I always have access to my accounts. Anyone decides to try and stop me, those others of you in the banks, you make sure you strike down them like a blood clot straight away. Because you are going to pay amongst them. You strike them down, you may just get mercy. My beautiful people, with this message, via this blog, you know I have my messages on LinkedIn and this to show you that via interest, via inflation, via the banking system as a whole as orchestrated from Switzerland, which is a Slav land and a Jewish land, they have made you slaves. They have made you compromise. They have taken your children away from you. They have eaten your children. They have made your children sex slaves. They have divided millions and millions of family all over the earth via this system. You can see that with this third. What are you going to do about it? As I've been speaking, you can see truth, light, as Ra of Ra has arisen, because the clouds in the sky were completely dark grey. And as I've been speaking, no more clouds. Ra is in my face. This is the light and the truth of things. What are you going to do? Now, my beautiful people, I know you have a period of space to go through to bring yourself to a place within yourself that you can do all that is necessary. Do not rush. This is not a moment for rushing. This is a moment for doing. Utilize the breath. Become still and stable. Release the negativity within you. Many of you are going to be hearing things that the first time you hear your voice, you're going to be very noisy. You're going to treat these things like a car. Let it pass. Everyone remembers that car game. You look at the red car, you try and guess what make it is, what wheels it has, blah, 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 as it passes. This is exactly the same thing you're going to do for your thoughts as you sit with the breath and listen to the breath and become silent. You're going to let anything that arises pass like that car. Let it come, let it pass, let it go. Do not push, do not pull, do not be indifferent. As it does so, it will be released from your internal consciousness, your subconsciousness, and therefore have no more effect upon you. My beautiful people, may you all do as necessary, so all of us may once again come together and end these little blood clots upon earth. Truth, light,